I grew up in a very poor family. My dad went to prison when I was 5 years old, and when I was 9 years old, he died. And people told me all the time I was going to end up like my dad and end up in prison. I started living my life in that way, doing drugs, alcohol, overdosed 7 times in 1 year. Just didn't really care too much about my life whatsoever, and figured the world hated me, so I was going to spend every day trying to get back at the world. At 19 years old, I was looking at life in prison. Later on, got sentenced to 19 and a half years. I always believed there was a God, but I wasn't sure how he would work in my life or what he even wanted to do with me at all. Here I took the life of my cousin. I'm going through the process of possibly losing my first daughter. Everything at one time was coming down. And so it was just surrendering everything to him by saying, take me and use me any way you can, or just let me die. It was the first time I really cried since I was 9 years old when my dad died. I woke up the next day and all the colors in the county jail was, to me was bright, and everything was totally different for me. I just knew that I was never going to turn back again. I found something that was the only thing that I knew was worth anything in life. And God didn't stop there. Opportunities came for me to minister behind the pulpit and lead guys to the Lord. When I got out of prison, I put in for jobs in ministries, churches, and I got turned down left and right because of the felony. And so I pretty much gave up on putting any more applications, resumes into ministries. And so I was sitting at lunch one day, just going through the phone, and I saw a Gateway on there. So I looked it up, found out a little bit about the mission statement. So I put in for the job, and I prayed about it, and I just kind of left it in God's lap. Literally, when I was driving home that day, they called me. The lady on the other side, when she talked to me, it was like an angel talking to me. Like I just felt presence. And so it told me that's where I needed to be. Just the doors opened up. When the door opens up, you gotta walk through it. Who would have thought that somebody had nothing, that nobody thought was gonna amount to anything, would someday be a production manager? Some people might think, well, it's just a thrift store, but to me, it's more than that, because I don't just go there and do a job. It's an opportunity to minister and save souls and share my life with them and what God's brought me through. We came to Holland. We was trying to find something similar to the church we came from. So we went to different churches. We couldn't find a church where people was raising their hands and crying out to God. And when it come time for worship, that people would just be moved. And so when we came to the church, we went to the service and looked around, so many young people raising their hands up and just crying out to God. That's what God said, to come here and to stay here. We're kingdom builders. It really helps when people give their money. It ultimately builds God's kingdom. If we don't give of our time, our finances, it just really limits what the ministry can do. God likes to show us that there is no limitations when it comes to Him. Years and years later, after I was a Christian, I still was working on forgiving myself. Until one day, God, He shared with me, if you don't forgive yourself, how am I fully going to use you to share with others that they need to forgive themselves? You need to know that you have a purpose. Before you was even born, God formed you in your mother's womb, and He had a plan for you. If you live your life and you walk out your life with that compassion and that love of Christ, that changes everything.